Let me run you through the review for Silver Bullet, developed by 1cc Games and published by Flynn's Arcade. It's releasing this 30th of October 2025, just in time for Halloween. It's £5.99 or €6.99 or $6.99. It's also 1200 yen. Full disclaimer, full transparency. This game was given to me for free by the publisher. This is not a sponsored video or anything like that, no money exchange hands or anything. I said I would only do a positive review. This review exists, so you know this is going to be a positive review, so also just spoiler alert for that. If I was going to do a negative review, I would purchase the game post-launch and then I would do a negative review like that. Also, heads up, I'm a massive Flynn's Arcade fan, like honestly, like the biggest Flynn's Arcade fan. That's actually why they gave me the code. So I'm over on Twitter, like reposting their tweets, interacting with them, and just, I literally have bought every game that they've released or published. And I'm on Twitter, or whatever the fuck it's called these days, and I'm saying, loving the game, thank you so much. This is one of the main reasons why I love indie games, is you can go on to, whether it's social media or wherever, you can contact the developers, the publishers, whoever, the people that made the game. Sometimes it's a very small team or even a single person, and you can thank them individually. You can't do that with massive AAA titles. I'm going to try and keep this review just talking about Silver Bullet and not how much I love 1cc Games actually, and also of course Flynn's Arcade. What I will say though about Flynn's Arcade is they are up there with Devolver Digital. If you've not heard of Flynn's Arcade, make a note of them just now. Check out all of their games, like the quality is ridiculously high. Tiny little bit about me then, so my qualifications, if you want to even call them that. I'm a huge shmup player. I play loads of shmups. I'm talking about like traditional shmups, things made by Cave, Namco, like old school stuff from like the mid 80s onwards. Recent, more modern things as well. I play tons of twin stick shooters. I have folders full of shmups, twin stick shooters, all that kind of stuff. I've dabbled in things like run and guns, and I've actually played a lot of these Cabal shooters too. And one of the main subgenres or gameplay styles I love is arcade single screen games. Anything from these Cabal shooters to things like Donkey Kong or Space Invaders, or yeah, just any single screen action. I just absolutely love that. Game & Watch, all those kind of games, so I'm well versed in this type of game. Sometimes I find it a little bit jarring if I'm ever watching a YouTube review on a game by someone that doesn't play that genre, especially if it's something very niche, like if it's a racing game, a fighting game, a shmup, and the person making the review is just not that experienced in that field, and they just kind of see all of those genres, all the games kind of the same. Those video reviews can be valuable as well, because you're getting the insight of someone that's not really versed on them. But for me, I like to hear from someone that is more experienced in those genres and sub-genres. So for me, playing a game like Silver Bullet, it's not my first rodeo. I've worked in video game shops before for about 5 years. I worked for about a year of that. I worked in Game Station in the UK, where my job was essentially to have conversations with people on the shop floor, discussing games that they'd enjoyed, what type of games they liked, maybe things they didn't like, and I would be recommending games to people. It was honestly one of my favourite jobs of all time. I keep up to date with all things indie games. I follow Deku Deals, I'm always on Twitter, I check out itch.io for absolute bangers, so I am all about indie games and the indie game scene as well. Also, full disclaimer, although I play a lot of these games, to be completely straight up with you, I'm not that good at them. My excuse is I have lots of different hobbies, I have lots of different things, and honestly, for me to have a good time, I just don't need to be good at something. I've got this insane driving rig set up for me playing Gran Turismo and other driving racing games. I'm not on any leaderboards, I don't compete online or anything like that. This review will have, I suppose you can call them spoilers, sort of. There's a tiny little bit to unlock in this game. I will be spoiling that. And the reason why I'm making that decision is because the game content is very small in the way that it is in like a shmup, generally speaking, okay? So if you want to come into this game from the unknown, I would probably just say stop watching now and just go and pick this game up. Which actually moves me on to my next point, which is this game is £5.99 or equivalent in your location. Honestly, if you enjoy the screenshots or the gameplay trailer, or if you've ever played a 1cc game or a Flynn's Arcade game, honestly just stop watching this review right now and just go and pick up the game. I saw this game advertised a few months ago on Twitter. It was Flynn's Arcade that was posting about it. I immediately was interested. I love playing a Halloween themed game around about this time of year. I love Halloween, I get really into it, and I usually play either a spooky game or a Halloween themed game. I'm going to kick us off with the game's description as of the Nintendo eShop. I don't actually usually pay attention to those descriptions. Like I say, I spend a lot of time on places like Deku Deals and other places similar to that. I read a lot of descriptions and see, to be honest, most of the time, I feel like the description of the game is just not that great, and this will be before I've played the game, and it'll also be after I played the game as well. And I often, not that I disagree with the description, I just feel like often the description's a bit vague, or I don't know, I'm just usually not a fan of it. I read this description here, and because I thought it was pretty good, I'm going to read it to you verbatim. It will be on the screen right now. Reggie the vampire is kidnapping puppies, and he must be stopped. As Van Helsing, embark on a journey around the world to rescue the puppies. From haunted mansions and museums to macabre cemeteries, each level is filled with unique challenges to overcome and secrets to uncover. Man's best friend, Van Helsing's trusty bloodhound, Silver, can be summoned during levels to attack enemies and even drive vehicles. Any enemies hit by Silver will drop delicious bonus items that will boost your score, so make the most of your canine friend's help. Unlock and upgrade. Collect gold coins hidden throughout the levels to purchase power-ups that will aid you in your mission. Collect enough coins to unlock the additional puzzle game mode, Blocks of Terror. Collected bonus items, collected challenges, and discovered secret items count towards your progress and allow you to unlock additional weapons, from a zombie smashing shotgun to the devastating rocket launcher. Top dog. Both arcade mode and terror blocks feature online leaderboards, allowing you to track your progress and compete for the best score. And for those who prefer to show off their skills live, the game's low memory footprint ensures smooth streaming. Control and Conquer. With gameplay based on Cabal shooters, Silver Bullet offers extensive control and customization options. Old-fashioned, awesome, with personality-filled pixel art, customizable retro screen fillers, and chilling synth-pop beats from the legendary YM2612 chip, Silver Bullet looks and sounds like a lost 16-bit classic. Despite how much time I spend looking at games, I only just recently learned what a Cabal shooter is by name. Of course, I've played loads of these Cabal shooters in the past, from Sin and Punishment to Wild Guns and a whole bunch of others. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this genre in general. Let me tell you about this game's features. First of all, there's a photo mode. I love photo mode. I love it when it's built into a game like in Gran Turismo, and if it's not built into a game, I usually try and find a way. The way that this one works is you just pause the screen, you select photo mode, and it basically hides away the HUD. From there, you can either take a screenshot with the internal camera that's on the Switch, or on Steam, you can probably just take a screenshot that way. Or, like what I've recently gotten into, is what I call photos of screens. Here's a bunch of examples of the photos of screens that I've taken from this game. Here's a few examples of photos of screens I've taken from other games. If you like that kind of photography, if that's your thing, check out my website. Link is in the description below. A big one for me is options. I like to just have enough things going on in the options, but such a massive quality of life issue I find for options, especially when there are lots available, is a lot of games don't allow you to access the options from the main game menu. You have to exit, go to the options, make the change, go back into the main game, and it makes it difficult to see the changes, especially if it's visual or control based options. In this game, you can fully access the options from the main place. So if you're wanting to try out different control schemes or different filters, that's possible. It's very slick. They've obviously thought about this quality of life feature a lot. It's stuff like this that shows that this game has been play tested to death. And because it's a very concise and gameplay dense game, that kind of playtesting is just absolutely essential. And that's another one of the reasons why I just like indie games in general over AAA games. I'm going to try avoiding a rant right now, but there's just so much AAA garbage out there that's not been play tested and it's just janky as hell. You won't get that here. Let's talk about the visuals, or really actually the visual filters here. I love when these kind of retro or kind of neo-retro or pseudo-retro kind of games have got lots of filters available. To be fair, I end up usually just going for the most plain option available, but I like how they've got a lot of options there. However, in this case, I've actually gone the true LCD filter at 30%. I've played around, I may crank that kind of filter up a little, and I may try out other filters, but that's a sweet spot for me. Sometimes I feel like the cooler filters in games can sort of obscure the visuals a little bit and kind of make it a little bit more murky type thing. I find this true LCD at kind of a mid sort of 30% range actually makes the whole game pop even more, and just, oh man, those squares, look at those squares, absolutely gorgeous. Love the visuals options, and I like what they've done there. Again, one of my gripes in gaming in general, and this affects AAA and it affects indie and affects everything in between, is when controls are not like fully mappable or they don't have enough options. This game has got you covered. You've got two main control schemes. You've got arcade mode or twin stick mode, and all the buttons are fully remappable, and it's just amazing. I started off playing twin stick mode. I think that is actually the default mode, and I play a lot of twin stick shooter games, so I actually decided to start off with that one there. I just started playing around with the controls to see how things felt. I just preferred the feel of the arcade setup, although I am just playing that on a regular controller, which I'll talk about in a second. Online leaderboards, as mentioned in the description, this covers arcade mode and terror blocks mode only. There is a high score mode. I would have loved if they had included the online leaderboard for that as well. So the high score mode that I just mentioned there, I kind of refer to it as practice mode. A lot of shmups have a practice mode, or at least they should have one. It really is a must when it comes to a shmup, a shooting game, or something within that kind of field. So yeah, I call it practice mode. It is here as the high score mode. Let me run you through my setup then. So as I mentioned, I'm using the true LCD filter at 30%. I use the arcade stick controller setting in the options menu. However, I am using the standard Switch Pro controller. I played this docked using a 27-inch Asus gaming monitor. I actually used the M Classic upscaler and a set of creative tabletop speakers. The game at the time of recording is running the version 1.06, and I'm capturing this using the Elgato HD 60. When I play a game that is very like skill based rather than like a puzzle game, or you know, a sort of point and click adventure, something a bit more chill, I kind of need to get into the zone a little bit. I feel like I'm not able to just play my best going straight in, and sometimes I feel like if I'm going to play a game like a shmup where it ramps up in difficulty, what I like to do is run a couple of kind of practice rounds first. So how I've been warming up for this game is I've been playing the terror blocks first of all. I don't know what it is. I feel like just playing a round of that just gets me right into the swing of things. Then I'll play the target practice kind of mini game, and then I might play a couple of rounds in high score mode, or as I call it, practice mode, on like the level that's a current sticking point for myself. And then I'll jump in for a run of arcade mode. 1cc Games then, who are they? What are they all about? 1cc Games is a small indie game studio from London. James Ensing, who works on code and design, and Dan Rini for graphics, sound, and also design. They've previously worked with Rising Star Games as consultants for the European release of Akai Katana. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing any of this. It's an absolute classic by Cave, by the way. That kind of tells you all you need to know about these guys. They don't fuck around, they know what they're doing. And if you've not played that game, go and check out that one as well. It wasn't until looking at their website I also realised they had developed Star Hunter DX, so I went over to Deku Deals to check that out. Turns out I bought that on day of release. I did not remember buying that, to be honest, and I will definitely be checking that out after playing through this. They also worked on Space Moth, which I'm a huge fan of. I picked that up day one on PC, and then I double dipped on the Lunar Edition 2 when that came out on Switch. Also credited is Vanya Karanovic, who worked on a whole bunch of programming. I don't really know the technical terms for all these different things, but it looks like, according to the credits, they did a whole bunch of stuff for a whole bunch of the parts of the game, so well done to them. If I see their name attached to a game in the future, I'll be going in for it, going by how good Silver Bullet is. Also credited is Amy Gardner, who worked on the music and sound effects, often an area of games that goes overlooked, but I massively appreciate the music in here, the ambience, the sound effects, and all things audio, so thank you very much for making that amazing. Let's talk about the gameplay. I'm not going to go into strategies here or anything like this or minutiae type things for just now. I may make a second video on that later. Let me run you through what's happening here. So there's 12 levels in total, and they go like this, kind of mini game, main level, mini game, main level, you know, like this. So there's 6 mini games and then 6 kind of full levels, if you want to call it like that. And at the end of each main level there is a boss to defeat. Every few levels there is a shop. In the shop you've got things like an additional dog, and the dog is a special weapon. I'll talk about that in a second. You can buy 1-ups, you can buy a shield, you can buy this thing where your accuracy meter, like the combo of your accuracy, increases faster at the cost of it decreasing faster as well. There's an item which means that when you do the special dog attack you get more bonus items. And then finally there's an item where it's a magnet, and the magnet pulls in coins and bonus items. So the main genre or subgenre of Silver Bullet is that it's a classic Cabal styled shooter. There's lots of sort of bullet hell-esque bullet patterns in here. And the main theme of the game, of course, is shooting and dodging. You're trying to rack up a score. So in order to do that, gaining this score through your accuracy. So every time you're hitting an enemy, you're getting this like accuracy kind of like bonus score. When you're shooting away from the enemy, like you're shooting at nothing basically, you're losing that bonus accuracy score. And every time you get hit, that bonus accuracy score cuts in half. You're trying to build this special meter, and when it fills, you can launch the dog in a straight line. And what I actually love about this is when you're launching it, the whole screen freezes while you launch it, so it cuts across where you've aimed. I love this particular weapon and I love how it works. So the game loop is essentially dodge, shoot accurately, power up the special meter, launch the dog, collect the loot, rinse and repeat. Other little bits and bobs would be to try and hit like the mini pop-ups, like the wee target practice. Along with Cabal shooters and arcade shooters and shmups and all that stuff I talked about at the beginning, another game genre I'm a massive fan of is pinball games. I play a lot of pinball games. There's a bit of like a pinball game kind of vibe with this one. It comes from the nature of Cabal that it's a single screen, like the background doesn't move, same or similar to a pinball machine depending on what kind of display you're using, but typically the pinball machine will stay still. What's kind of similar between a pinball game and a Cabal shooter is you're having to watch out for these like pop-ups. A lot of the kind of bonus things are only there for a few seconds, and sometimes hitting a certain part of the level or an enemy triggers something else. So that's kind of like the sort of pinball-esque feature of it as well. It's just the part of my brain that's kind of saying, oh, this kind of feels like pinball, like in a really good way, so I like that. Very briefly on what the strategy is like, without going too in depth then, is when you launch your dog to make the attack, it's doing a couple of things. It does freeze the screen while you set up the attack. It does extra damage to the enemy. It racks up points. One of the main things that it does is it cancels the enemy bullets. And of course you're getting those bonus pickups for points as well then. And the more you're picking up of those bonus items, you're getting that wee combo feature happening as well. The trade-off then comes where you're essentially really wanting to launch the dog just as frequently as you can to get those bonus items, but there's a slight trade-off because sometimes you might want to spend the dog on a more difficult enemy. There is that trade-off. If you're constantly launching the dog, then it means that you're not going to maybe have it ready when that tougher enemy comes up. The game doesn't put you into that position too harshly, but there is a small element of that, more when it comes to the bosses. Something I love about this game, although it's really about the subgenre of the Cabal shooter more than specifically this game, is that it's not just about dodging, it's also about the shooting. See, a lot of shmups, vertical shmups and horizontal shmups, it really is about the dodging primarily, and then the shooting part is more sort of secondary. There's not really much of a skill so much in the shooting part of most shmups, it's more in the dodging, whereas with the Cabal shooter, and it's really pronounced here in Silver Bullet, it really is about the aiming, and it is about both at the same time, and I love that. I love that kind of skillful shooting element in combination with the dodging. That just does it for me. The toughness of the enemies in Silver Bullet I find are just perfect. There's a couple of popcorn enemies that die with like a single hit, or because you've got such a high rate of fire, maybe it is more than one hit, but it's almost instantaneous death for the enemies. But there are a sprinkling of enemies that either have like another form or don't die immediately. Basically, this game, it strikes the balance between the popcorn enemy, instant death, and the slightly tougher to kill enemy. Sometimes I feel like a shmup can be ruined with like too many enemies that take too long to die, whereas I feel like the balance is just right with Silver Bullet. It just hits it right where it needs to be. One of the attacks you've got is a dash. It's also really a movement. You can dash into an enemy which kills them. If you dash into an enemy bullet, it will kill you. And if you push the dash button without moving, it does like a parry type thing, and the parry lasts for maybe a couple of seconds, and it allows you to not get hit by like incoming bullets. So there's a couple of times in the game where dodging out of the way is either very difficult or like borderline impossible, not quite though. So you can either dash out of the way if that's available, or you can hit that parry button or like dash button without movement, which turns it into a parry button, and it allows you to kind of dodge it while you're standing still. And I absolutely love this. And because of the timer, the way that it resets, it means you can't like just spam it, so you can't just like hold the button and then you're just like impervious to bullets. It does have a sort of cooldown timer effect as well, and it's just perfect. It's long enough that you can use it, it's not so long that you can spam it, and because there's so many bullets coming in as well, I feel like, yeah, they've obviously timed that right. Again, this is just more evidence that this game has been play tested to death. Things like that where the controls are just so tight, and just things like this parry system just lasts the perfect amount of time. And just all these like tiny little things that you don't realise are working so well. The reason you don't realise that they're working so well is because they work so well. Let's talk about difficulty. Difficulty is very unique to each person. It's extremely subjective. What one person might find difficult, another person might not, depending on their natural abilities, skills, past experiences, preferences, and so on. What's important for me in a game that is difficult, such as Silver Bullet, is that I'm having fun whether I'm progressing or not. I enjoy arena twin stick shooters. In a lot of those, such as things like Geometry Wars, I've just grown accustomed to not ever reaching an end goal, so you just play and play and play until you die, and then there's no end. Games like Tetris have this. There's no end per se. Unless you're playing the original Game Boy or NES version of Tetris, there is no end. It just goes on infinitely, unless you're playing the 150 line mode or something like that. But a traditional game of Tetris on a modern system, it just goes infinitely until you kind of run out of steam. A lot of twin stick shooter games are like that too. You just play and play and play until you die, basically. So I'm quite used to playing games like that. Plus shmups are a lot like that as well, where you're maybe not expected to play it on a single continue, you are kind of expected to hit continue a couple of times. So with that in mind, I feel like the difficulty on this is just right, where I'm having a good time even though I'm not necessarily progressing right away. It did take me a good number of tries to actually see the credits in this game, and I think I had to use at least 2 continues on my best run to see the end credits, and that was probably honestly about 6 hours in of play and practice to actually see the end credits on a 2 continue. I have unlocked a whole bunch of stuff on this game, so I have gotten most of the challenges. I've got one more challenge to go, which is the 1cc. Hopefully I can hit that. And as of the time of recording this, I've actually not unlocked any of the other weapons. You've got to discover 80% or more bonus items to unlock the first weapon, and then it's 90%, and then it's 100% of the bonus items before you can unlock the final weapon. So I've actually not done that at all. So maybe going from here, I think what I need to do is actually get that last bonus item, which brings me up to the 80%, unlock the next weapon. Hopefully that'll give me a better chance of 1cc'ing this game. So that's my challenge there. Going back to when I know a game is just right for me, is when it hits my curiosity. When I ask myself, what happens if I try this? What happens if I try that? I found myself firing up Silver Bullet, jumping into a level on the high score mode and just trying out different things, like discovering this parry system, what can I dash into, just trying out the different controller settings, going in from an angle of curiosity. See, when a game puts me into that kind of mindset, that's when I know it's right for me. That's obviously very subjective, but I do feel like certain games are ripe for that kind of thinking, and this is one of those. Talking about my relationship with difficulty in games then, there's a couple of genres that I may be better at. There's obviously most genres I'm not, to be quite honest. To be fair, I'm probably not as good at games in general as maybe I should be for the amount of time and money I spend on them, but on games like twin stick shooters and shmups, I like to crank up the difficulty really high and honestly just struggle and not actually like beat the game, and just struggle and just have like a really good time, a very short time, because obviously I'm not progressing very far, but just like a really good time with it. A thing I do in a lot of racing games, in particular Gran Turismo or NASCAR, is I crank up the difficulty like right to the max, not just in terms of turning off all the assists on my car and turning up the AI skill level to the maximum difficulty, but I'll actually hinder my car as much as possible. I'll add weight, or maybe I'll put on worse tires or remove downforce, things like that, just to see how far I can get. How bad can I make my car and still come in a podium finish, something like that. Or in particular on like a NASCAR game, realistically, if I was to drive a real NASCAR in a race, there's no way I'm going to come anything other than either dead last or maybe just in front of people that have wrecked if I've magically not wrecked. So when I'm playing NASCAR, I crank everything to the max with the expectation that I'm going to be somewhere at the very back, and it makes me feel like I'm actually really racing with real life drivers. It means that when I'm playing career mode, I'm not going to be winning that career. There's no way I'm hitting top 10 or top 20. If I do my absolute best and I put everything into it, I might make like top 30 or something, and there's like 42, 44 drivers. And again, I'm not there to like win the game. I'm literally just there to have a good time. Don't get me wrong, I can get frustrated on lots of different games and lots of different genres, and I do feel like I need to be moving forward a little bit. But there are games out there for me where I can just have a good time without actually proceeding. I'm a huge fan of the YouTube channel Electric Underground. I highly recommend you go out there and check out his video essays. To be fair, he brings up so many good points. There's a couple of things I'm going to talk about here which he's brought to my attention. Very briefly, we've spoken about one already, and it is the overuse of the word bullet hell. I've kind of addressed this already. I did use the phrase bullet hell earlier on to kind of describe some of the bullet patterns in Silver Bullet, although according to Mark from the Electric Underground, this is not a bullet hell game. And I agree with that, although you could say some of the patterns are sort of bullet hell-esque. Two other things that he's brought to my attention through his videos, which I love. One is called gameplay density. Again, yes, this is more specific to the Cabal sub-genre itself, but Silver Bullet absolutely nails it. The gameplay density in Silver Bullet, in my opinion, is just absolutely perfection. Each level ramps up in difficulty and busyness perfectly, same with the boss battles. You do get a slight breather or a change of pace or like a sort of palate cleanser with the 6 sort of mini level type things, and also like the shot, and just there is a bit of a break in between the levels as well, and I love that too. In fact, something just very briefly I'm going to talk about right now is before each level, you've got a description of the level and a couple of tips and kind of gameplay instructions. And again, that reminds me of a pinball table or kind of an old school arcade cabinet where there would be instructions on the cabinet itself. I absolutely love this touch. Another thing that I saw on Electric Underground's channel, which I've not heard about before, he addresses in one of his videos a trope that comes up in a lot of video game reviews where the reviewer will say something like the gameplay is very clunky, or the character is very clunky, or the character doesn't move very well, or there's some sort of critique in that. And how Mark from Electric Underground addresses this is when people feel that a character is clunky, they're maybe coming from a game where the character has full abilities, has full movement, and they have to depend on the level design or the enemies for difficulty and for challenge. Whereas I actually personally love the challenge coming from all three: level design, enemies, and the character's limitations. I love having character limitations, such as in Mega Man you can't crouch, or my racing games as I mentioned earlier. I love driving these big American muscle cars that are as aerodynamic as a brick. They've got way too much horsepower, they spin about, but when you tame those big American powerful cars, it's just absolute beauty. It's just absolute symphony in motion. It's just amazing. Whereas if you're driving an easy to control car, it's not as rewarding when you get a good lap time. For me, I enjoy driving road cars around a racetrack rather than a race car around a racetrack. It's very easy to just drive a race car around a racetrack. It really comes down to getting a good time or not, or if you're racing against others either online or offline, coming in first or something like that. Whereas when you're driving a road car that's not designed for a racetrack, if you're not got your wits about you, you'll not even make it around the track. It's not just about getting good time, it's about making it around the track in one piece. There's a bigger emphasis on character difficulty when you're driving a road car around a racetrack. I love character limitations in video games. It gives it that kind of retro vibe, that retro feel. There's actually a theme of this in Flynn's Arcade published games, where the character has limitations. For example, there's maybe no double jump, or the jump isn't very high. I absolutely wouldn't say that the character in Silver Bullet is clunky by any means, but it is limited. If it didn't have that limitation, it wouldn't be that subgenre, and the gameplay would suffer for it as well. Yeah, I just wanted to raise that point about just difficulty, not just in the level and the enemies, but in the character itself. Let's talk about vibes. The vibe in this game is just bang on. It's very Halloween-y. It's very retro-esque, or neo-retro, whatever you want to call it. It's very indie. It's very slick. The graphics, the sound effects, the music, the theme, the whole package, the vibes are just right. I might be biased because I love playing Halloween games during October, so I might be slightly more influenced by that. There's no tutorial in Silver Bullet. There's a how to play section. If you leave the game unattended, it will run a wee demo, and before each level there's that wee instruction, guidance, some hints and tips in there. Other than that, you're just left to it, and that's how I prefer games. I can't stand tutorials. I would honestly rather suffer alone than have to wade through a tutorial. The overall quality of this game just adds to the vibe as well. Okay, it wouldn't really be a review without some negatives. So I've broken this down into the negative section and the what changes I would make as well, and a conclusion. I'm kind of having to scrape at the bottom of the barrel here a little bit. It's not that I've self-discovered any negatives. I've only thought of these because I'm adding this section to the video. One of the negatives, and this isn't really a critique of the game per se, if this just isn't your genre, this is just not going to be for you. There's games out there where they're maybe not your favourite genre, but you could maybe say, okay, you're not into this particular genre, but you should try out this game. This is not that. If you don't like Cabal shooters, if you've seen the screenshots or the videos, and it's just not for you, this game is just not for you. Okay, from a shmup perspective, I know a lot of shmup players who really do not like the kind of rogue element. They do not like some sort of accumulation of anything to do with like buying stuff in a shop. So here you can buy the extra dog weapon, you can buy the various different kind of combo features. I know a lot of shmup players that just do not like that. To be fair, if that's not your thing, I still think you could look past that and enjoy this, because it's not a rogue-like game. If that's your only thing that you're kind of iffy about with this game, I would still say go ahead with it, but just that is something that I know a lot of shmup players do not like. I personally do enjoy that, and I prefer when a game has that, but like I say, I know a lot of shmup players would not like that. Okay, so a critique then would be the high score mode. I've been calling it the practice mode, and I know it's not that, but if it was a practice mode, I feel like it should maybe include a couple of settings in there. Like usually on a shmup, it would allow you to add certain things that you would have by that stage in the run. So for example, I would like to be able to add an extra dog weapon, or I'd like to be able to add maybe certain kind of combo features, just so I can practice what it's going to be like at that stage in the game when I have those unlockable features. I like it how it is. It would have been nice to have those extra features, which actually brings me on to my next section, which is called what changes would I make? I'm sure we all do this in every game where you would just make certain changes. To be fair, this game is honestly perfect the way that it is. Certain games that I play, they just absolutely cry out for just this missing thing. There's nothing like that here. So again, I'm kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. I'm only thinking up these things just for this part of the video, but there are a couple of things where I maybe would include. Although to be fair, because I've not 100% of this game yet, maybe some of these things might exist or become unlockable, but here they are. A couple of things then. I would like a sort of endless mode. I've written here second loop. I mean, second loop are for people that can actually 1cc the game, so maybe that does exist, but and some sort of endless mode, or some sort of like boss rush mode would be nice, or maybe like a randomizer mode where it just throws you the levels in like a different order. That would be cool. I would like to see some sort of hardcore mode, kind of like a score attack, like these caravan shooters, maybe like a timer or like a single life mode, something like this. I like these kind of modes because you're taking the exact same game and you're just kind of putting a little bit of a twist on it. Another reason why I've added these here as well is for a game like this, it's quite low hanging fruit to add a couple of those kind of modes in. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, you don't need to rebuild the ship, it's just like an extra little bit. So if it's possible to add those later, that would be amazing. Or if some of them do come later once you have 1cc'd the game, then that'd be amazing as well. Paradoxically, games that I've played the most and that I enjoy the most, I actually would make the most changes to. I could talk for days and days about the changes I would make in my favourite games. My favourite game of all time is probably something like Gran Turismo 3 and then maybe Gran Turismo 7 and then, I don't know, a bunch of other games after that. And honestly, the list of changes I would make to those games are ridiculous. But like I said, I really just included this section of the video just to make it a fair review. Okay, something I would add to this game, which is a bit ridiculous, I'll admit, is I would love to have seen the dogs, or at least one of them, be a Staffy. I'm a huge Staffy fan. Staffies are my favourite breed of dog. I love every breed of dog. Here's my Staffy. Her name is Maggie. But if I could push a button and make a change in this game, I would add a Staffy to Silver Bullet. Conclusion. This is going to be a game that I come back to for years. I've already got a stack of games that I'll just fire on from time to time. This is definitely going to be one of them. This is actually the very first time I've ever played a game with the intention of reviewing it. I've always reviewed a game kind of halfway through or afterwards or after lots of hours of play. But yeah, this is the first time I've ever kind of gone into a game with the mindset of reviewing it, and I've actually loved it. I've really enjoyed doing that. My plan is to do that again. Like I honestly have really enjoyed doing that. The final conclusion though is that this is an instant purchase if you've ever enjoyed any Cabal shooter, other games published by Flynn's Arcade or developed by 1cc Games, any shmup, any twin stick shooter, or even like a run and gun, any of those kind of games, if you've ever enjoyed them, like this game is for you.